I did like last year, no, it was about 2 years ago. I did a clip about alder, and people were starting to ask me more and more about like the kind of alders that you use and smoking and like everything in general. So I decided to do a little clip today. Now, one thing that I guess that to kind of start off, because I kind of feel like I'm gonna be all over the place when I'm trying to explain it, but the main wood I use is alder. It's probably 99.9% of the time is the wood that I use during the time I'm smoking salmon, jerky, the birds I get, or pretty much everything in my life in general is what I use is alder. Now, the one thing that there's different types of alder. I use green alder and I use the dry alder. So one of the things is that in the colder times of the year, winter time, fall time, when it drops down to like the cooler, the I guess the cooler fall evenings and stuff like that, you're gonna need that really dried out alder. So like this year I went and got some green alder, and I thought, well, I can let it dry because it'll be a quick load to get, and I was using it and it was not burning very well, so I was fighting with it throughout the week or so that I was doing jerky. So if you can see behind me, this is all the dry dead alders that I will be getting today, and this is going to be the winter load that I'm getting. And most of the time in the summertime, if you try to use that dry alder, the fire is just going to rip. It's just going to get really hot, and then it's going to make char out of basically all your meat or your fish or anything. So during the summertime, you're going to need that wet green alder to put on the outside to where it's going to have that water and slow it down. And then when you use green, it gives it a really heavy smoke, probably twice as much as the regular dry alder, probably because it just has all the smoke and everything still in it. So today's what I moved over to a different patch of alder. You're gonna find it by the creeks, because it needs like X amount of gallons. I can't remember. It's something insane amount of water it needs to take in on a daily basis. I can't remember if it's 1,000 gallons or 100 gallons a day. It's something crazy. I'll have to look it back up again. And so you're gonna find it all the time. You can find it at high elevation and you can find it at low elevation, but the abundance of it is probably right around that, I want to say 2,000, 1,800 feet is about where I find it all the time. I like anything else, I really don't care too much, like my elk calling or anything I shoot. I really don't care as long as you're not on my roads that I'm making or the spots I'm doing. But find it on the pass, on Sadis Pass, throughout the whole place. It's no secret. You drive through here and it's all you're gonna do is see nothing but alder. But this is where I get it. It's probably a shorter trip than anywhere else that I go to get alder, but this is probably the closest place I can get, and I try to load up on it as much as I can. And right now I feel safe driving around back into here, because it's when you're trying to get it in the summertime, it's crazy because I'm so scared of setting anything on fire. And then when you come in spring, you got to worry about the high waters, the floods, or anything like that. So now the creeks are really low, and I can actually get access to. Right now, this would be probably washed out for most of the summer or the springtime, because the water would be right in where I'm at now. So that's kind of one of the things too, is seasons. I guess what you're trying to be careful for too. So right now I find everything's really low, but everything's wet at the same time. So I find that today I'm on it. Like I want to come out and get a load and cut everything up, because I feel safe with it, and it's not hot, because most of the time too, if you try to come in the spring or the summer, it's really humid, and it's just like I feel like I lose my breath when I'm in here cutting. I just feel suffocated. And then you have mosquitoes and every other ratchet bug that's in here that tries to bite you, and it's like I don't even know what half of these bugs are in here sometimes that are biting me and crawling all over me. So today is what I'm gonna get done. One of the things too is alder comes from a German word, I believe it is. It means that's the wood that bleeds. And I'm actually not into any of the green, but I'll try to find a green one to cut, and then I'll maybe take some pictures of it the time after it gets cut, it slowly turns red. So it looks all white, but then after a while it just turns red. So that's the meaning of where it comes from. And so I'll probably just get started and get some cutting and load up, but I will probably also show a couple of clips too of what it looks like, because I know we're having people that are trying to figure out what it is and what it looks like. So I think what I'll do is kind of do a little, maybe a couple minute segment of showing your green alders, maybe what it looks like on the ground and what it looks like alive and dead. So we can, whenever we're trying to decide that we want to smoke something, that we can do that and be able to identify it correctly, so we're not using some crazy exotic thing that tastes like burnt wood or something. I don't know. But sometimes you got to be careful too, as far as the bark wise goes. If you're using some random wood too, it's not healthy for you to be breathing the smoke, and especially eating it. So you want to pay attention to that. The bark is another thing I always try to do, is make sure I'm getting the dead alder, and then I don't have bark I'm burning, because it can kick out chemicals, and I'll have to research that a little bit more. But I know that's one thing I'm really wary about, is burning bark, because I remember reading something where it says that it's not healthy. There's so many things that aren't healthy, but this is just one of those ones that I get kind of paranoid about, is when I'm starting to smoke something and have bark. But let alone if you use bark, it gives it some funky taste too. So I'm gonna start cutting and getting loaded up, but then I'm gonna do a couple of clips where I'm gonna walk around and show the cricks and then the green alder and the dry alder. So hopefully this will help answer some questions. Of course, if you're new to my page, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my page, and always drop your comments, because I don't have a big amount. I guess even if I did have a big amount of followers, I would still direct a lot of my attention to the questions, because I like to answer them as soon as I can. I even have a little sign that pops up that normally notifies me that for the questions, because I know when I go into YouTube's, I don't even want to answer questions, because they never get asked or answered. So this is one of the ones where I'm able to answer questions as soon as possible, unless I'm out of town or up in the mountains. But feel free to ask any other questions that you can, if you need help with anything, because I'll be more than glad. So one of the things, if we're looking here, we're gonna see this creek bed, right? I don't want to go back into that sun, because then we're going to have a big glare and no one's going to see what I'm talking about. But so if you look, here's our creek bed, and this is one of the things I was talking about, is that you're going to find your alder by the creek. And alder is a wood that needs water constantly. So here is a good look of our dead alder that I'll be getting today. And I really scored today, because I've been looking, whenever I drive, I look all over. Just one of those things that catches my eyes is alder, because I'm like, okay, I want to get this for the smoke and whatnot. And you can be able to see the creek that runs right here, and this is just probably part of the creek. And actually it looks like it's running backwards. It's really weird. Now as we come down here, so of course every time I come into somewhere like this, people will be like, did you fish this? Did you fish that? Yeah, I have my fishing poles too. Most of the time I leave them at home though, because I start getting sidetracked when I start fishing. Now, here's a good idea. Here's a good look, not an idea, of what your green alder looks like. Now it's fall time too, so they're really like starting to lose their leaves more. And then you can see that this is green alder too, because it actually has its bark on it. And then I'll take my chainsaw and run it all the way down the middle of it if I get it, so I can peel the bark off. Then we look over here, and then here's our dry dead alder that will fall and take too. So I always like to bring my dogs out too, because these bears are all over in here. They're no joke in here at all. So, and you can see the other part of the creek that runs through here. So this whole part would be flooded out if I was trying to get this in the probably even summertime to springtime. So, and it's always rocks too. So if you kind of look down through here, that's one thing when you're running your chainsaw too, is that you gotta be careful with all these rocks. But so if you're trying to find it, look around the creeks. Here's another shot of what it looks like with green, the leaves and whatnot. Once you start first time I got alder here, so learning experience, but loaded up after about 3 hours, so alright. There's some tips on getting alder. If you guys have any questions, let me know.